Well, I personally think this is a unique moment on this planet, and I think every single person in embodiment at this time has been preparing for lifetimes to assist in this ascension process of the earth moving in to the higher realms of the fifth dimensional new earth. So I think we've all been prepared. So what happens in the outer world is that we have catalysts that begin awakening us. And for myself, it began when I was really a very small child. I was born during World War II, so I didn't have a lot of that frivolity in childhood that a lot of kids do. And so there was a lot of fear and sometimes confusion. And so my understanding and my inner knowing from the time I was really little was that this pain and suffering people are experiencing on the physical plane is not normal, and that is not the way life is supposed to be. And I always had this inner knowing that I was going to be able to find the answers as to why that was occurring. And that quest took me through, of course, like everybody else, probably, or many people, the gamut of world religions, through scientific understanding, the research of the power of the mind, and all of those things. And everywhere I looked, there seemed to be this thread of truth that indicated in one way or another that we are not the victims, but we're creating our reality. And in Eastern philosophy, it was the laws of karma or cause and effect. And in Eastern philosophies, in Judaism, it was more an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And as I say, we should have said an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hug for a hug, a kiss for a kiss. So we got the whole picture. In Christianity, it was reaping what we sow and casting our bread upon the water. And then in science, it was like attracts like, action and reaction, radiation and magnetization. And then even in metaphysics, it was the out-breath and the in-breath of God, the law of the circle. So when I realized that every form of knowledge, both academic and scientific, was aware of this physical principle that we're subject to in this physical plane, my overwhelming question was, if that's true, why are we still in the mess we're in? So I'd ask the religious leaders, and they would say, well, pretty consistently, it's because Eve ate that darned apple. And when you ask the scientific community, it's, well, matter evolves out of chaos by happenstance, and we just evolved from an amoeba in a mud puddle by chance, and there's no rhyme or reason for who we are. What is, just is. Well, none of that was fulfilling to me. So I believed that there was order in the universe and that God responds to our heartfelt pleas. So I began really asking and meditating. And after a period of time, I kept hearing that, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven within, and all else will be revealed to you. And this is something that we probably are mostly familiar with, but I had no idea what that really meant. So I just trusted and I kept meditating, and pretty soon there was an awakening that took place in my heart that allowed me to open up and begin reaching into the higher realms of truth, where I had access to this higher level of my own consciousness, which we can call the higher self or the superconscious mind or our Christ presence. Through all creation, this part of our consciousness is referred to as our I am presence. And that presence has connection with the company of heaven and our Father, Mother, God, that all-encompassing, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, cosmic I am, all that is. And so I was able to start receiving information from this higher source. All the questions and the things, not just frivolous questions, but things fulfilling, that would fulfill my divine plan and help me, were being responded to very tangibly. And then one day I just had this epiphany that what I was experiencing was perfectly normal, that this had nothing to do with being psychic or channeling or supernatural extrasensory perception or special gifts that I'd been granted that other people didn't have. This was just our own ability that each and every one of us lost when we began using our gift of life in ways that weren't based in love. And as we used our free will and our creative faculties of thought and feeling in ways that weren't based in love, we started creating these gross mutations that reflected poverty and separation and duality and war, that created us to fall into denser and denser vibrations, which is referred to as our fall from grace. And when that happened, our crown chakra closed and we fell into such dense frequencies that we lost that connection with our I am presence and the higher realms. So we started developing this fragmented, fear-based human ego, and we started believing that the physical plane is all that exists and the physical body is all that we are. So we started having this fear-based consciousness that there's not enough, and we started hoarding and creating lack and limitation that then began reflecting as inclement weather conditions and plagues and famines and pestilence and all of the kinds of things that result in the pain and suffering. So when I realized that every bit of pain and suffering in the outer world is self-inflicted, and that we have created it through the misqualification of our precious gift of life over lifetimes, and that we have the absolute ability to reverse that, to raise up in consciousness, to love that fragmented human ego back into light, and to allow our I am presence to take over and to take command so that we can communicate with the company of heaven. Then my knowing was, if people just knew this, we could change the world. So my heart commitment eons ago that really began with meditations and reaching out in 1968 when I went on maternity leave with my son, my knowing was that I would be supported in ways that I would be allowed to share this information from the company of heaven in every conceivable way without a financial obligation, so that nobody would be prevented from having access to it because of their inability to pay for a seminar or workshop or buy a book or whatever. So that was my motivation, and that's going on now for a long, long time.
Wow, that is so beautifully put. Thank you for sharing that, and how, it's how we are creating all of it all the time, and it really gives us back the power to realize that. And I know for a lot of people, what we don't want to take responsibility for is the yucky stuff, the stuff we don't want. But when we realize that we created that and that we can transcend that, that brings our power back, and that's really what we need in order to be present in the new earth or the higher ascended frequencies.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things I'll share with you. One of my understandings that made it so much easier to accept the yucky stuff is that recognizing that we are sons and daughters of God, and our whole purpose and reason for having a physical third dimensional reality is that within this time and space continuum, we would be able to use through our free will and our creative faculties of thought and feeling, we'd be able to observe the patterns of perfection in the causal body of God. And then through our unique ways of thinking and feeling, combine those patterns into previously unknown expressions of divinity, literally expanding the kingdom of heaven on earth. So we had the free will to use our life force, this precious gift of life, every atomic and subatomic particle and wave of life that flows through our heart flame into the physical plane. We had the free will to use it any way we wanted to. So unfortunately, there was a point in time when we decided to start experimenting with it in ways that were not based in love and compassion, and began reflecting, as I mentioned, these gross mutations. But what we didn't understand is that even though we have the free will to use our gift of life any way we want to, this is our precious gift of life, and we are responsible for every single electron that we use. So when we misqualify it with negative thoughts and feeling and hatred and poverty consciousness and war and greed and corruption and every malady that we experience, when we misqualify our gift into this gross mutation, we send this pure, pristine beauty forth through our heart into this gross, distorted, battered mutation that manifests in the outer world as all of this pain and suffering. So through the law of the circle, this is what we are sending out. So it manifests all the discord in the outer world, and then it returns to us. And it returns to us bringing back all those discordant frequencies. Now, the universal law is that the energy must return to the source. But the catch is that it cannot return to the source unless it's vibrating with the same or a higher frequency of perfection than what we originally received. So if we're sending forth love and harmony and wonderful vibrations of light, this comes back to us, blesses us with all those patterns, and easily passes through us on its return journey back to the source. But this discordant energy comes back to us, and it cannot pass through the divinity of our heart flame. So it accumulates around our physical body, and it magnetizes other energy that's vibrating at that same frequency and manifests as all those painful experiences. And it's coming back not to punish us, not to create havoc in our lives, but to give us an opportunity to take that precious gift of life and through the divine laws of love and forgiveness, transmute it back into light, literally healing it and lifting it back into light so it can pass through our heart flame. Now, unfortunately, when we fell into these dense frequencies and started manifesting this fragmented, fear-based human ego, our ego didn't know that. So when these things came back, it would get angry and upset and respond with more fear and more negativity, sending out even a bigger cloud of negativity. So what's happening in the outer world now is that this is a cosmic moment. And because of this unique experiment that we are going through that has never been attempted in any system of worlds, never has a planet that's fallen to this depth of pain or suffering in the physical plane been given the opportunity to move forward this quickly in the light. So this energy is coming back at an accelerated, and this is from all time frames and all dimensions, since the initial impulse of our fall from grace eons ago. So what is happening is that humanity is beginning to remember, and we're beginning to awaken, and our I am presence is gradually beginning to expand through the divinity in our heart, so that instead of being that still small voice within, we are hearing through this intuitive knowing, this awakening, remembering who we are and why we are here. So as this light flows through us, it flows into the core of purity in every atomic and subatomic particle and wave of life that has our individual stamp on it, our electronic light pattern. And it pushes all the discord of that negativity to the surface and to be transmuted back into light. So this is the time biblically that was referred to as the time of screaming and gnashing of teeth. Does anybody have any doubt about that? I think. And that's because the light of God is pushing all the garbage to the surface at a greatly accelerated pace. Anything that conflicts with that light is being pushed to the surface So all of the challenges and pain and suffering we're seeing in the outer world is actually the antithesis of the new heaven and the new earth that we are co-creating, and the patterns of divine love for the new earth, and the divine government that will govern us individually and collectively, which is a government of the I Am presence, by the I Am presence, for the I Am presence of every person, revering and honoring the diversity of each person and their individualized learning experience, knowing that our sisters and brothers are one with us, and reveling in the diversities instead of being fearful and afraid and prejudiced and discriminating and suppressing and abusing and enslaving and all of the other corrupt and horrible things we've done to each other. So all of these patterns that reflect that old fallen consciousness are being pushed to the surface. And all we have to do is turn on the news to witness that very, very tangibly in the outer world. Mm-hmm. So now the I Am presence is in a new place for us.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm sure everybody watching can definitely relate to, it seems like things have been way more intense this year than ever before. And really there is that, the stuff that's no longer serving the highest good is really in your face, I think, no matter who you are. And it's really nice to know, okay, there's this opportunity to transcend it now and things can move faster. So what can we do to, for somebody who's feeling stuck in it? Do you have a process or technique to help that flow start to go faster, or help the person start to open up and release?
Yes. Mostly it is just a shift of awareness. We've been beaten down and battered down and even manipulated by various sources on the planet to truly believe that this fragmented part of our consciousness, that we are worthless sinners and worms in the dust. And so we become who we believe we are. And so what is happening now is we are beginning to remember that divine self. So the beings of light want us clearly to recognize the magnitude of what it is to be a son or daughter of God in this cosmic moment. And so I'll share with you that, as I mentioned, the Earth is going through a unique experiment that has never been attempted before. Never has a planet that has fallen to this depth of discord and pain and suffering been given an opportunity to move through two-dimensional shifts from the third dimension through the fourth dimension, which has been predominantly accomplished into the full embrace of the fifth dimensional new Earth. And time and space only exists in the third and fourth dimensions. In the fifth dimension, we're in the timeless, spaceless frequencies of the higher realms of illumined truth. And so the reason that this experiment is so critical is because we are one with all creation and there is no separation. And once we accomplish this God-victorious ascension, which we absolutely are in the process of accomplishing and will, and I'll mention that the beings of light said it has already been accomplished in the realms of cause, and we're just doing the final completion in the outer world of effects. When we complete this, we are taking our accumulated experience with us. And since this has never happened before, that a planet that's in this much chaos has been given the opportunity to move into the light, we are taking the collective experience into the realms of truth. So all of our experiences of the horror that occurs when we begin using our gift of life in ways that are not based in love, those incredibly painful, destructive patterns, and what happens All of that is being written in the halls of learning and the Akashic records in the inner realms of truth. So the beings of light said, once this is accomplished, from that moment forth, through all creation, the sons and daughters of God will be able to learn what occurs if you partake of that tree of knowledge of good and evil. And all evil is creating patterns that aren't based in love, without ever having to experience that pain and suffering, because you will know better than to do that. So we are literally creating a new octave of godhood. So to answer your question about what we can do to get out of the mess, the beings of light want us to understand, because of the urgency and the significance of this cosmic moment on planet Earth, the whole of creation is focusing their love and light. Literally, the beings of light and the sons and daughters of God, from galaxies beyond galaxies and suns beyond suns, in the all-encompassing divine matrix of our Father, Mother, God, are projecting rays of light on this minuscule little planet to assist us at this time. And because of the critical need for us to succeed, not one soul has been allowed to embody on Earth that hasn't been preparing for lifetimes to be able to fulfill this facet of the divine plan. And the beings of light have said, for every one of us that was allowed embodiment, literally millions of souls were turned away. And that's not because we're more special or more evolved or more wonderful than any other son or daughter of God. It is because we were evaluated through our accumulated training and learning experiences. And it was believed that because of our strength and courage, that during this incredible, difficult, painful time, we would be able to hold the light and focus on the fulfillment of our divine plan in the face of all adversity. And we wouldn't get pulled into the junk in a way that would overwhelm us. Now, we still have the free will to do that and to allow it to overwhelm us. But what the beings of light want us to understand, we have every single thing we need within us already. Every bit of skill, knowledge, courage, strength to succeed God victoriously. And we can certainly join together and we can seek other tools and methods and all of that, which can enhance and wake us up to a different level of knowing about our growth. But they have said it is already within us, and we are being trusted to pull this off. And the beings of light have said the greatest privilege and honor of any son or daughter of God through all creation is physical embodiment on planet Earth during this cosmic moment. So the most important thing for us to do is to realize that we are naturally supposed to have open heart and mind, telepathic communication with the highest aspects of our own divinity, our I am presence, and the legions of light. We were never supposed to be weeping and wailing through our valley of tears through trial and error. As above, so below. We were supposed to be able to communicate in the outer realms. We go to school, we learn things, we ask professors and people with higher levels of knowledge and education. The company of heaven is just our sisters and brothers that have evolved to higher levels of knowledge. They're like college professors compared to us being kindergarten students. and there's all graded orders. There's all the magnificent beings of light associated with the various world religions. There's cosmic beings, ascended masters, solar logos, legions of angels from all graded orders of angels, and beings of light from the elemental kingdom, the mighty Elohim, the builders of form, the directors of the elements. Throughout creation, legions of light that are standing in readiness, awaiting to assist us, but we must ask for that divine intervention. So I'd like to share with you just a moment of what's happening now, but I want Shayla to go ahead if you have a question or something about this moment that we're in right now. I'd like to give you the opportunity, before I don't want to take up your whole hour, to share this moment that we're in at this time.